Hello friends and welcome to Tutorials Point. Well, nowadays it's an era of smartphones, smart TVs, smart houses and everything is smart. What about we humans? Are we really smart? Right? We definitely consider, and of course we all are getting more and more smart because of so many developments which are going around all of us, isn't it? But do you really think we are actually as smart as we think we are? Well, not always, right? So there are situations wherein we actually tend to maybe misuse or misspell certain expressions not the way they should be, right? So how do we actually gauge whether which expression to be used where, or what are the situations wherein we actually commit these errors without even realizing, right? So in this video, we are going to see few such grammatical errors which supposedly smart persons commit, and most of them definitely do, right? So let us go ahead and gauge and actually check as to how smart are we, or are we actually as smart as we think we are? Let's go ahead. Okay, so this is a very commonly mistaken pair of expression, right? So this is couldn't care less. So couldn't care less actually means that you don't care about any particular thing that you're talking about, right? So, or I care a damn. That is what it actually means. But what happens is we usually end up mistaking it with could care less, whereas could care less actually is completely opposite of couldn't care less. So couldn't care less means, whatever the situation is, I couldn't care less, which means you don't care about any particular discussion which is happening at that point in time, or any particular situation that you are referring to, right? Whereas usually people confuse it with could care less. So could care less actually means that you do care about, maybe you do care less, but yes, you do care about the situation which is being discussed, right? So next time, because we are smart, we are not going to commit this error. So be very careful while you are using this expression. Okay, so another expression which commonly is actually is used in not the most correct way is for all intensive purposes, whereas the correct version of it is for all intents and purposes, right? So actually for all intents and purposes means is in every practical sense, right? That is the correct meaning of for all intents and purposes. Whereas usually whenever we, let us suppose any person in your office used this expression and you heard him or her, right? Because both of these expressions sound so same, so we end up mistaking them, right? We end up misusing it as for all intensive purposes. Though it sounds very same and maybe we construe it to be same, but it is not. The correct expression which needs to be used is for all intents and purposes, which means for all the, in every practical sense. For example, for all intents and purposes, we require this team in our company, right? This could be, maybe an appropriate usage according to the context. But if I say, for all intensive purposes, we require this team in our company, would not be right. So try not mistaking it next time whenever you use it. Okay, now there's another idiom which is again a part and parcel of our language, and it is case in point, right? So case in point, again, it actually means is, what it actually means is the evidence that you are probably using to support your argument. But usually what happens is we again mistake it as case and point. So case and point is again not right. It is again wrong. It is basically considered as a misspelling expression, right? So case and point is not the most appropriate expression to be used, whereas the right one to be used is, in case you are using in that context, is case in point, right? Which actually means that, any example that supports one's argument, right? The case in point that she made during the discussion bolstered her claim. This could probably be one of, one example wherein you could use it, right? So be very careful. It is case in point and it is not case and point. Okay, another very, very commonly confused expression is deep-seeded versus deep-seated. So let us first see which amongst both of them is correct. Well, the correct expression which you probably should be using is deep-seated, right? So seated derived from seat, wherein you sit probably, right? So actually deep-seated, what it means is something that is very, very firmly established in any particular area, be it a society, be it your memory. Maybe you have a very, very deep-seated memory about any particular thing in your childhood or whatever, right? So that is what is meant by deep-seated, which means that something that is very, very firmly established. But usually we end up confusing it with deep-seated, right? We think that deep-seated probably would also mean the same, and of course while we are speaking it just goes so seamlessly, so fluently, that we end up committing this error n number of times while we are speaking. So definitely we don't want to be projected as not smart, isn't it? We definitely, in this smart world, we want to present the smartest version of ourselves, right? So avoid committing this error if you actually want to look very, very smart. Okay, so technically speaking, this term deep-seeded, so if any seed is actually dug very, very deep, it usually does not, or it might not even flourish, it might not even grow, right? So do you understand the literal meaning of deep-seated? So when we are using deep-seated, what we mean is something which has very, very deep roots, or something that is rooted very, very deep, isn't it? On the contrary, if we end up using deep-seeded instead of that, technically we are actually wrong, because the seed which is very deep does not even grow, right? So this is what you need to take cognizance of while you are using this expression in language. So look at an example. He has a deep-seated infection, right? Or she has a deep-seated memory of her school during childhood, right? So this is how you might want to use it. So my dear friends, do not fall into this trap of confusion again. While you are using this expression, be very careful. Do not end up confusing seated with seeded, right? So it is deep-seated. Okay. So this again is a very, very commonly mistaken expression. So peace of mind or peace of my mind. So here if you observe peace and peace, the spellings are actually interchanged and they are used in wrong sense, right? This piece means a piece or a section of any particular thing, whereas this piece means tranquility, nirvana, or something like that, right? But this piece, usually, because they sound the same, we might end up writing the wrong spellings, or for that matter we also might end up using the wrong expression in the wrong context. For example, we might, instead of, maybe we are intending to use peace of mind, but we might end up confusing it with peace of my mind or peace of one's mind. So what is the difference? Well, peace of mind, the first one, this one, section of mind, to be literal, is actually wrong. Is basically, it is a huge error. You definitely do not want to use this anytime, right? Okay. Talking about this peace of mind, which means tranquility, and holistic eternal happiness or something, whatever, however you might want to define peace in your own terms. So this peace of mind actually means that you are at peace with the surroundings, or you are at peace, you are happy with whatever is going on. For example, talking to her gives me peace of mind, right? So that is how you might want to use this. As far as peace of my mind or peace of one's mind is concerned, what does it mean? It actually, it is completely a different expression. So what does actually peace of one's mind mean? So it means to tell someone how one feels. So usually, often while expressing anger or frustration, which means you are maybe letting out your anger or maybe venting it out with any particular person that you are referring to according to the context, right? So that is what is meant by peace of one's mind, right? For example, I had to give Sarah a piece of my mind after she left my car a mess for the third time this week. So you probably, usually we might use giving someone left, right and center. So that is the context, that is actually the contextual use of peace of my mind here. So I had to give her a piece of my mind because of her dropping performance over a span of 3 months, right? So that is what is meant by peace of mind. Maybe in terms of venting out your anger or frustration, or maybe reprimanding someone. That is the literal use of peace of one's mind. Whereas peace of mind means tranquility, absolute peace, absolute happiness. That is what is meant by peace of mind. So my dear friends, next time do not commit this error, because both peace of mind and peace of my mind are completely different. So do not end up confusing both of them, and do not end up committing this error again. And of course, this one is absolutely a blunder. This is completely not expected to be used, right? So friends, I think after seeing this video, you definitely have gauged as to how smart you are, and maybe how smart you need to become, right? So keep learning, keep watching these videos. We will see you again in the next video. Till that time, have a good day. Keep learning with Tutorials Point and Tutorix.